You know that feeling, right? You've been working hard, maybe the number on the scale is going down, but that stubborn belly fat, it just won't budge. It's so frustrating. Well, today we're going to get into the science of why that happens. We're talking about a very specific, kind of hidden fat called visceral fat, and more importantly, how you can actually target it. And here's the kicker. The reason that fat is so stubborn is because it's not what you think it is. It's not just the stuff you can pinch on the outside. The real problem, the dangerous problem, is the fat you literally can't even see. It's tucked away deep inside your body, wrapped around your most important organs. So that brings us to the heart of the matter, the real belly fat problem, because it turns out not all fat's created equal, not by a long shot. Okay, so let's break this down. There are basically two types of belly fat. You've got your subcutaneous fat, that's the jiggly stuff right under your skin that you can actually grab. But then there's visceral fat, and this stuff is a completely different beast. It's packed deep inside your abdomen, cozying up to your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, and the scary part? It's what we call metabolically active. That's a fancy way of saying it's not just sitting there doing nothing. Oh no, it's actively pumping out nasty substances into your system that can really mess with your health. And just how serious is this? Well, visceral fat isn't just about how your clothes fit. It's constantly creating low-grade inflammation throughout your entire body. And that inflammation is directly linked to some really major chronic diseases. We're talking diabetes, fatty liver disease, heart problems, you name it. So getting rid of it isn't just a vanity project, it's about fundamentally improving your health from the inside out. But here is the good news, and you really need to hear this. Despite being so dangerous, visceral fat is actually super responsive. In fact, it's often the first fat to go when you start using the right strategies. So let's get into what those strategies actually are. First up, let's talk about food. Because what you put on your plate can either feed this dangerous fat, or you can starve it. We're going to look at two absolute powerhouse compounds that do the starving. So let's talk about carotenoids. You probably know them as the pigments that give veggies their awesome bright colors. Think oranges, reds, and deep greens. But they do so much more than just look pretty. They're incredible antioxidants that go to war against cell-damaging free radicals. They cool down that nasty inflammation, and they can even help flip the switch on your body's own fat-burning genes. So, where do you find these things? It's actually pretty simple. You just have to eat the rainbow, as they say. We're talking about those vibrant, colorful veggies. Carrots, sweet potatoes, bell peppers, spinach, squash. And this isn't just wishful thinking. There was a really cool Japanese study where people who ate a diet rich in these veggies saw a major drop in their visceral fat in just 8 weeks. That's pretty amazing. Okay, our second secret weapon is a compound called catechins. These are really powerful polyphenols, and you can find them in super high concentrations in, of all things, green tea. And what they do is fundamentally change the way your body handles and stores that deep belly fat. So how in the world do they work? Well, it's a brilliant little three-pronged attack. First, catechins boost fat oxidation, which basically tells your body, hey, burn more of this fat for fuel. Second, they can actually block some of the enzymes that help you absorb fat from your food. And third, in green tea specifically, they team up with caffeine to make this whole process even more effective. And get this, one study showed that people drinking catechin-boosted green tea for 12 weeks saw a significant drop in visceral fat. All right, so you've got your nutrition dialed in. Now it's time to add the magic ingredient, exercise. It's the ultimate multiplier in this equation. And when it comes to getting rid of visceral fat, the right kind of movement is absolutely non-negotiable. And this right here is so important to understand. A huge meta-analysis, that means they looked at tons of different studies, found something fascinating. If your only goal is to see the number on the scale go down, diet is king. It's more effective for total weight loss. But if your goal is to specifically torch that dangerous visceral fat, exercise is actually better. They're two different tools for two slightly different jobs. How much better, you ask? Well, check out this number. One study found that doing just 2 45-minute cycling sessions a week for only 2 months slashed visceral fat by an incredible 48%. You're cutting it almost in half with a totally manageable amount of exercise. That's wild. So if exercise is the golden ticket, what does the ideal plan actually look like? Let's break down a simple, science-backed protocol that you can literally start today. The latest research is pretty clear on this. The heavy hitters for torching visceral fat are vigorous aerobic exercise and high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. Now, that doesn't mean you should stop lifting weights. That's super important for building muscle. But if your primary mission is rapid visceral fat loss, cardio is where it's at. Okay, so what does this look like in the real world? Here's a super simple 4-step plan for your week. And honestly, step 1 is the most critical of all. You have to pick an activity you actually like to do. I can't stress this enough. If you hate it, you won't stick with it. Once you've got that, just aim for 2 or 3 sessions a week. Try to make each one last for at least 45 minutes. And then the last piece of the puzzle is to make sure you're working hard enough. You got to find that moderate to vigorous intensity sweet spot.
But how do you know if you're in that sweet spot? Without all the fancy gadgets? Easy. Use the talk test. If you're exercising at a moderate intensity, you should be able to talk in sentences, but you'll sound a little breathless. If you push it into the vigorous zone, you'll only be able to spit out a few words at a time. It's a dead simple, super effective way to know if you're working hard enough.
And this brings us to our final, and maybe most important point. As you start doing all this, you have to change how you measure success, because it's probably not going to show up where you're used to looking. Let's just be real for a second. The bathroom scale can be your worst enemy sometimes. And when you're targeting visceral fat, you're changing your body composition. You're losing this deep, unhealthy fat, maybe while you're holding on to or even building muscle. Those incredible health changes are happening inside, but they're often totally invisible to that number on the scale. And here's the most beautiful part about using exercise for this. It has what scientists call a dose-dependent response. What does that mean? It means the more you do, the more visceral fat you lose. It's that simple. Unlike super strict dieting, where you eventually hit a wall, with exercise, your effort is directly rewarded. You don't have to starve yourself, you just need to move. So let's just land the plane here with one final thought. Please, forget about trying to find the single, best, or perfect workout. It doesn't exist. The best exercise on the planet is the one you'll actually do week after week. It's that simple. So my question for you is, what's one thing, just one exercise, that you're going to stick with this week to start taking down that visceral fat for good?